Welcome back to the Litigators Lounge, devoted to exploring timely commercial litigation topics with Offit Kurman's commercial litigators. I'm Andrew Sleight, and joining me today is my partner, Niall McMillan. Niall, welcome back to the lounge. How you doing?
Good to see you, Anders. Doing well.
Good. Thanks for joining me. In today's world of litigation, we hear often a lot about expert witnesses and their role in a case or a trial. Can you shed any light on how an expert witness might help a litigation matter and move that forward?
Yeah, so the first thing, it's probably best to say what an expert witness is. So in litigation, we have fact witnesses and expert witnesses. Fact witnesses are basically going to be the people telling you from their personal knowledge what they observed, what happened. Expert witnesses are going to be people who the court needs to explain complex technical issues, and they're going to do that based off their own expertise, their experiences, and their review and analysis of the facts of the case. So what that can mean for something like a construction defect case, your fact witness can tell you there's a crack in the foundation, but the expert witness is going to tell you how that crack formed, etc., and what the best practices or standard of care were there. And so with expert witnesses, how we're going to use them in trials. So the court's going to issue a scheduling order, typically telling you when you have to identify your expert witnesses. However, the best time to identify those expert witnesses on your own end, if you're the plaintiff, it's before you file the case, or to start at least thinking about them. And as a defendant, it's when you receive that complaint there, because that's going to be the most important time to shape your case, your theory of the case, and to prepare them from there. Now, generally, how you would use them at court is kind of how I talked about. They're going to identify either the standard of care, and if that was breached, they're not going to speak to the ultimate issue of if it was breached or not, but they're going to lay out that in the industry we would do this, etc., and then here observing the facts that they did not do that, and then the trier fact can make their own inferences from there that the breach was made, etc. This all come up in a LLC or a company shareholder dispute. A lot of times it's going to be a dispute over how the company was managed. That's usually a prudent investor or business judgment rule analysis there. An expert witness can help speak to those facts as well.
Is an expert witness needed in every commercial or business dispute case, Niall?
No, they definitely are not. So if you have a simple breach of contract, someone didn't pay you, you don't need an expert to tell you that they didn't pay and that they should have. However, it comes up more in the technical issues where, let's say you have a very complex type of a contract or services that are being performed, and the issues whether they performed that contract negligently or breached a standard of care that they should have done in performance of the contract, then an expert may come into play.
Yeah, that's important to know. Not every case is going to require an expert, but usually if it's a highly contested case or with technical issues, you're going to want to bring the expert in. Who pays for the expert if there's costs related to that?
Yeah, so that's in the commercial context, that's sometimes an issue of contract. So if you have attorney's fee in your contract, sometimes it'll say the expenses of litigation or specifically say for expert fees in there. But if it doesn't, typically that would go on to you. So you're obviously going to pay the upfront costs in any situation of obtaining that expert. And then it's just an issue of if your contract allows for experts to be included in that attorney's fees award. A lot of them don't, and it's something to think about too when you're drafting your contracts, if you want to include them or not. It's really analysis. Sometimes you don't want to include them because it could be a little expensive if you're on the losing end.
That's good to know. I mean, a lot of contracts will call for just the award of attorney's fees, but may not touch upon the issue of expert witnesses. And if you're looking at fees for expert witnesses that could reach into the five figures or higher, that could be significant. That's a good one out.
Exactly. And typically when you need an expert witness, you're going to need them to actually win your case or defeat your case. So just a quick plug too is that the other side needs an expert witness. You don't always need a rebuttal witness to that, but it's something to consider with your attorney. And it's also something to consider the value that attorney brings to as well, is that when they have experience in this area of litigation, they typically have experience with different experts, and they know who's going to be credible to the court, who's going to present themselves well, and that the court's going to be able to trust and will do a good job for you.
That's great. Thanks, Niall. Yeah, important things to keep in mind if you got an expert that's needed in your case. Just a reminder, Offit Kurman is a full-service law firm with offices and litigators from coast to coast, providing litigation services related to employment, financial services, construction, government contracting, real estate, and business dispute matters. So please reach out to Niall or myself if you have a litigation matter or an expert witness need that requires attention.
Thank you.